rights. We have.
हाल ही में हमने पहलगाम में टेररिज्म का बहुत ही घिनौना रूप देखा। कितनी ही माताओं ने अपने बच्चे खोए और कितने बच्चे अनाथ हुए। ऐसे में प्रश्न उठना स्वाभाविक है, क्या कुछ देशों द्वारा आतंकवाद का खुलेआम समर्थन हमें स्वीकार्य हो सकता है? सिक्योरिटी के संदर्भ में मैं कहना चाहता हूं कि सुरक्षा, शांति और स्थिरता किसी भी देश के विकास का आधार है, किंतु इस मार्ग में आतंकवाद, अलगाववाद और अतिवाद बड़ी चुनौतियां हैं। आतंकवाद सिर्फ किसी देश की सुरक्षा ही नहीं, बल्कि पूरी मानवता के लिए एक साझा चुनौती है। कोई देश, कोई समाज, कोई नागरिक अपने आप को इससे सुरक्षित नहीं समझ सकता। इसलिए आतंकवाद से लड़ाई में भारत ने एकजुटता पर बल दिया। इसमें एससीओ रेट्स की बहुत महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका रही। इस वर्ष भारत ने जॉइंट इंफॉर्मेशन ऑपरेशन को लीड करते हुए अल कायदा और इससे जुड़े आतंकी संगठनों से लड़ने का इनिशिएटिव किया। हमने रेडिकलाइजेशन के विरुद्ध समन्वय बढ़ाने और मिलकर कदम उठाने का भी प्रस्ताव रखा। टेरर फाइनेंसिंग के खिलाफ आवाज उठाई। इसमें मेरे समर्थन के लिए मैं आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। एक्सेलेंसी, भारत पिछले 4 दशकों से निर्मम आतंकवाद का दंश झेल रहा है। कितनी ही माताओं ने अपने बच्चे खोए और कितने बच्चे अनाथ हुए। हाल ही में हमने पहलगाम में टेररिज्म का बहुत ही घिनौना रूप देखा। इस दुख की घड़ी में जो मित्र देश हमारे साथ खड़े रहे, मैं उनका आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। यह हमला केवल भारत की अंतरात्मा पर भी आघात नहीं था, यह मानवता में विश्वास रखने वाले हर देश, हर व्यक्ति को खुली चुनौती थी। ऐसे में प्रश्न उठना स्वाभाविक है, क्या कुछ देशों द्वारा आतंकवाद का खुलेआम समर्थन हमें स्वीकार्य हो सकता है? एक्सेलेंसी, हमें स्पष्ट रूप से और एक स्वर में कहना होगा कि आतंकवाद पर कोई भी डबल स्टैंडर्ड स्वीकार्य नहीं होंगे। हमें मिलकर आतंकवाद का हर रंग में, हर रूप में विरोध करना होगा। ये मानवता के प्रति
Both leaders took note of the successful disengagement last year and the maintenance of peace and tranquility in the border regions. The boundary issue also figured in the discussions. Both leaders took note of the successful disengagement last year and the maintenance of peace and tranquility in the border regions since then. In voicing certain principles related to this issue, the Prime Minister underlined the need for peace and tranquility on the border areas for continued and smooth development of bilateral relations. And there was understanding on the need to maintain peace on the borders using the existing mechanisms and avoid disturbances to the overall relationship going forward. At this point, I want to highlight or draw your attention to the outcomes of the 24th round of talks between the special representatives of India and China on the boundary question, which was held in New Delhi less than 2 weeks ago. In their meeting today, both the leaders positively appraised these outcomes and decisions from that round of talks. They encouraged the efforts of the SRs and agreed to accelerate the implementation of the outcomes and the understandings that have been reached between the SRs. They also expressed a commitment to a fair, reasonable and mutually acceptable resolution of the boundary question, proceeding from the political perspective of their overall bilateral relations and in the long-term interests of the two peoples. Amongst other issues, the two leaders also exchanged views on ways to increase and balance bilateral trade, strengthen people-to-people ties, cooperate on trans-border rivers, and jointly fight terrorism. There was a desire to make additional progress on all of these issues on the basis of mutual respect, mutual interests, and mutual sensitivity. In particular, on economic and trade relations, there was recognition of the role that the Indian and the Chinese economies can play in stabilizing world trade. Both leaders underlined the need once again to proceed from a political and strategic direction to reduce their bilateral trade deficit, facilitate bilateral trade and investment ties in both.
Regarding the recent statement by the US President on Indian rice imports in the United States market, the Indian Rice Exporters Federation would like to clarify the market dynamics and the Indo-US rice trade.
We do believe that countries are dumping rice into this country today. We've never seen imports this great.
Which countries?
India, Thailand, even China into Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico used to be one of the largest markets for U.S. rice. We haven't shipped rice into Puerto Rico in years. So this has been happening for years. This didn't start during your administration, but unfortunately, we're seeing it in a much bigger way now. The tariffs are working, but we need to double down because
You want more? I mean,
well, they're cheating, right? They're not. They're just subsidizing and then
India. Tell me about India. Why is India allowed to do that? They have to pay tariffs. Do they have an exemption on rice?
No, sir. We're still working on their trade deal. So
Yeah, but they should be dumping. I mean, I heard that from London. So you can't do that.
There's a WTO case against India
Give me
right now.
Give me the countries if you could. Go ahead. India. Who else?
So
Mark it
India,
down. Which is good.
yes, sir.
India, Thailand, China into Puerto Rico, not into the continental U.S., but into Puerto Rico. Those are the main culprits.
So Puerto Rico used to do a lot of business, and now you're
100% Puerto Rico was U.S. based,
all right.
and
So
now
easy to
it's,
settle. Okay.
but there's others too, and I can get you a full list.
Regarding the recent statement by the US President on Indian rice imports in the United States market, the Indian Rice Exporters Federation would like to clarify the market dynamics and the Indo-US rice trade. US is an important market for India. In the last preceding financial year 24-25, India exported basmati rice worth $337 million, weighing approximately 270,000 metric tons to the US market. This places the US market as the fifth largest market for Indian basmati rice. Similarly, when we talk about non-basmati rice, in the similar period, India exported $57 million worth of non-basmati rice to the US market, weighing about 61,000 metric tons. This places US as the 24th largest market for Indian non-basmati rice. Now, first we have to understand that who is the buyer for this non-basmati and basmati rice in the US market. It is people from the Gulf and the subcontinent region, primarily people of Afghani, Iraqi, Irani, Indian, Bangladeshi and Pakistani origin are the primary consumer of Indian rice in the US market. All the exports of the US market are demand driven. They are placed based on advance orders from US importers. We have seen that there has been an increasing trend in Indian rice exports to the US market as the popularity of Indian and South Asian dishes such as biryani have grown in the US market. Now, all the exports are demand driven. They're based on taste because Indian rice has a very distinct flavor, texture and color palette, which is more suitable for certain type of traditional Indian and South Asian dishes. The American grown rice is not a like-for-like substitute for Indian rice, and it cannot be used as an alternative in Indian dishes. So all the exports from India, and India is not dumping any rice in the US market, where, however, and the demand remains robust and resilient. We have seen that before the tariff situation, the Indian tariffs stood at 10% for any rice exported to the US. This was later on increased to 50%. Even though there was a steep increase of 40% in the tariff rates, we have seen that the Indian exports have not fallen. This is primarily because of the reason that Indian rice has to be consumed by people who need it. It is not a favor which the US consumer is doing on India, but it is the requirement of the US market. We have seen that the prices in the domestic market in the US have consistently increased. Because of this tariff hike, earlier a 10-pound bag, which is the most popular packaging in the US market, was being sold for approximately 13 USD for per bag. After the tariff situation, this has increased to about $18 to $19 per bag. This means that while largely the realization for Indian farmers and Indian exporters have remained consistent, however, all the tariff hike has been borne by the US consumer, who has borne the brunt of this tariff increase, which has resulted in domestic food inflation in the US market. India remains poised to increase its trade to different markets, even though the US is a large market for India. However, Indian rice exports are well diversified across the world. The Indian Rice Exporters Federation is working closely with different stakeholders, including the government, to expand India's reach into newer markets. Recently, we have identified Philippines as a very big potential market for further rice exports. Today, we only hold a 4% market share in the Philippines market. The Philippine market is a 10 times larger market than the US market put together. So any steep increase or any further increase in US tariffs will be detrimental to the
ठीक है कुछ नहीं ठीक है हाँ खरीदे तो कुछ नहीं जरूर ऐसे तो भाई दो लाइन कैसे
बड़ी पिछाओ कार चल यार
The Chagos deal is an act of great stupidity.
President Trump were expressly intended to put pressure on me to yield on my principle.
We didn't need President Trump to tell us that. We've been saying this for 12 months.
This is an important national moment, and yet again the leader of the opposition has shown she is incapable of rising to it.
The head of the armed forces warned that our military faces a £28 billion shortfall. Is he right?
Shout on a Wednesday and they defect on a Thursday.
That he needed to learn from me. Let's look at what President Trump actually said. The Chagos deal is an act of great stupidity and a sign of total weakness. We didn't need President Trump to tell us that. We've been saying this for 12 months. And let's remind the Prime Minister, President Trump thought that we were doing this, that the Prime Minister is doing this for money. The Prime Minister is giving away territory we own and paying £35 billion for the privilege. Why doesn't he just scrap this terrible deal and put the money into our armed forces?
Prime Minister. The words from President Trump were expressly intended to put pressure on me to yield on my principle. What he said about Chagos was literally in the same sentence as what he said about Greenland. That was his purpose. And the future of Greenland is a binary issue that is splitting the world at the moment with material consequences. I've been clear and consistent in my position on the future of Greenland. The future is for Greenland and the Kingdom of Denmark alone. The leader of the opposition has taken 3 positions in 10 days. 10 days ago, she said Greenland was, in her words, a second-order issue. 4 days ago, she said she supported our position on Greenland. Now she's backing arguments intended to undermine our position, Britain's position on Greenland. This is an important national moment, and yet again the leader of the opposition has shown she is incapable of rising to it.
I've already told him we agree on Greenland. I'm asking about the Chagos deal. That money, that £35 billion, should go to the armed forces. Mr. Speaker, the world is changing. We are in a very different place, the most dangerous international environment since the end of the Cold War. Last week, the head of the armed forces, not me, the head of the armed forces warned that our military faces a £28 billion shortfall. Is he right?
Prime Minister! Mr. Speaker, I'm proud we're spending more on defence than any time since the last Labour government. The Strategic Defence Review is back the biggest sustained increase in defence spending since the Cold War. That's £270 billion this Parliament, making defence an engine of growth. That is a stark contrast. Ben Wallace, the longest-serving Conservative Defence Secretary, openly admitted that under their watch our armed forces were hollowed out.
Order. Mr. Bowitt and Mr. Cartledge, it is continuous week in, week out, and there's a couple over here who will also be going out for a cup of tea with you. Please, calm it down, or you know the consequence. Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, they shout on a Wednesday and they defect on a Thursday. The loudest shouter used to be the former Shadow Justice. We should take a note of who's shouting most loudly this week.
Kevin Burnell.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister wants to talk about defections. Let me tell him that when I had someone undermining my party, I sacked him. If he sacked... Mr. Speaker, if he sacked...
We're going to get through this Prime Minister's questions. I want to hear the Leader of the Opposition and I want to hear the Prime Minister. Those who don't may leave the chamber. Come in, Ben.
Mr. Speaker, we all know that if he sacked everyone undermining his party, his front bench would be empty. But these questions I'm asking, these questions, well, jokes aside, these questions are about our national interest. These questions are about our national interest. We support our armed forces in every possible way. Later today, my party will vote to protect our veterans from unfair prosecution. He is ordering his MPs to vote against them. In our national interest, and for the sake of all the brave people in the armed forces, past, present and future, will the Prime Minister do the right thing and vote in support of our veterans, not against them?
Mr. Speaker, she's claiming strength. She read the guy's defection letter and then at that point decided to sack him. What was she going to do? Correct the typos and give it back to him? She should have sacked him when he made disgraceful comments about faces in Birmingham, and she failed to do so. And she smiles, saying it's a good thing she's cleared out, a good thing there's fewer Tory MPs. The rest of the country agrees with her completely in relation to that. On the question of veterans protection, under the last government, they passed legislation which was struck down, leaving our veterans utterly exposed. We're putting in place proper measures to protect them.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister wants to talk about leadership. 3 of his own cabinet.
You've been in the military, very high up in a very decorated officer over here. One of the reasons why Trump keeps talking about his foreign policy is pretty much national security policy. He talks about a golden dome, the need for a golden dome, so that the US could place interceptor missiles over there. Tell me, Mr. Davis, when you have the Oreshnik missiles based out of northern Russia, I mean, these are hypersonic missiles, I'm guessing with multiple re-entry vehicles. They're very difficult to intercept from my limited knowledge, I guess, from military documents. Isn't it too obsolete a technology to actually go ahead and place over there? And isn't mutually assured destruction the actual deterrence for something like this?
You hit it literally spot on the head. It's not difficult to stop the Oreshnik. It's impossible. Right now, the technology doesn't even exist to get it. I mean, we've seen it demonstrated on 2 occasions, and there wasn't even an attempt to intercept it because the speed of the incoming the warheads so fast that any existing technology doesn't have a prayer to even make an interception, an identification, much less knock it out. It's just not there. There is no technology even on the horizon that's going to allow that to happen. And it is a fool's errand to say that you're going to have this impervious dome, because the development of the missile technology is continuing apace. So whatever you think you're going to have technology-wise in the distant future, the missile technology will also advance beyond that. So every time you come up with something that might knock something down here, you're going to have some missile technology that go beyond it. And just look at the Iron Dome in Israel, along with the THAAD, along with the U.S. Patriot system, the David Sling, the Arrows 1, 2, and 3, I think.
Yeah.
All of that integrated system combined could not stop Iranian missiles from penetrating that. They knocked some of them down, but a large number of very effective strikes got through. And if there's another Iran-Israeli war, you can be sure that more Israeli targets will get burned because their system cannot stop that. That is the state of the art right now in terms of air defense, and it's all the best stuff that we have, and it doesn't stop it. It slows some of it down. That's it. And if we see that which is a tiny little area, relatively speaking, where they're trying to protect that with some success, but not a lot, and then you're talking about the continental United States, I mean, that's just sheer fantasy to even think that you could do it with or without Greenland. So yes, you're right. The hypersonics and the other technology, both offensive and defenses, makes this just an effort of futility. This is not more than the paper thin. This is a briefing notes deep. It works for publicity because people believe it in the United States. They'll throw money at it.
हाल ही में हमने पहलगाम में टेररिज्म का बहुत ही घिनौना रूप देखा। कितनी ही माताओं ने अपने बच्चे खोए और कितने बच्चे अनाथ हुए। ऐसे में प्रश्न उठना स्वाभाविक है, क्या कुछ देशों द्वारा आतंकवाद का खुलेआम समर्थन हमें स्वीकार्य हो सकता है? सिक्योरिटी के संदर्भ में मैं कहना चाहता हूं कि सुरक्षा, शांति और स्थिरता किसी भी देश के विकास का आधार है, किंतु इस मार्ग में आतंकवाद, अलगाववाद और अतिवाद बड़ी चुनौतियां हैं। आतंकवाद सिर्फ किसी देश की सुरक्षा ही नहीं, बल्कि पूरी मानवता के लिए एक साझा चुनौती है। कोई देश, कोई समाज, कोई नागरिक अपने आप को इससे सुरक्षित नहीं समझ सकता। इसलिए आतंकवाद से लड़ाई में भारत ने एकजुटता पर बल दिया। इसमें एससीओ रेट्स की बहुत महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका रही। इस वर्ष भारत ने जॉइंट इंफॉर्मेशन ऑपरेशन को लीड करते हुए अल कायदा और इससे जुड़े आतंकी संगठनों से लड़ने का इनिशिएटिव किया। हमने रेडिकलाइजेशन के विरुद्ध समन्वय बढ़ाने और मिलकर कदम उठाने का भी प्रस्ताव रखा। टेरर फाइनेंसिंग के खिलाफ आवाज उठाई। इसमें मिले समर्थन के लिए मैं आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। एक्सेलेंसी, भारत पिछले 4 दशकों से निर्मम आतंकवाद का दंश झेल रहा है। कितनी ही माताओं ने अपने बच्चे खोए और कितने बच्चे अनाथ हुए। हाल ही में हमने पहलगाम में टेररिज्म का बहुत ही घिनौना रूप देखा। इस दुख की घड़ी में जो मित्र देश हमारे साथ खड़े रहे, मैं उनका आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। यह हमला केवल भारत की अंतरात्मा पर ही आघात नहीं था, यह मानवता में विश्वास रखने वाले हर देश, हर व्यक्ति को खुली चुनौती थी। ऐसे में प्रश्न उठना स्वाभाविक है, क्या कुछ देशों द्वारा आतंकवाद का खुलेआम समर्थन हमें स्वीकार्य हो सकता है? एक्सेलेंसी, हमें स्पष्ट रूप से और एक स्वर में कहना होगा कि आतंकवाद पर कोई भी डबल स्टैंडर्ड स्वीकार्य नहीं होंगे। हमें मिलकर आतंकवाद का हर रंग में, हर रूप में विरोध करना होगा। ये मानवता के प्रति।
Asauddin Owaisi ji. Sir, I stand to oppose the introduction of J&K Reorganization Amendment Bill 2025, Union Territories Amendment Bill 2025, and the Constitution 130 Amendment Bill 2025, sir. Sir, this violates principle of separation of powers, due process, undermines the right of the people to elect a government. Sir, it gives executive agencies a free run to become judge and jury executioner based on flimsy allegations, suspicions, sir. Sir, only when an offence is proved beyond reasonable doubt, then only you can leave the post and the membership. But here a mere accusation, allegation, the punishment of losing one ministerial post will follow. Sir, parliament democracy's chief ministers and ministers can only be removed through true means. First, executive prime minister can recommend their removal if the second council of ministers lose confidence of the legislature. Now this bill would empower the unelected executive bureaucracy to play the role of legislature. Sir, it undermines representative parliament democracy. This amendment would leave the minister and CM at the mercy of executive agencies. The severity of the amendment is not only in the fact that one loses their position if they are arrested, But even if they are detained, detention and administrative action doesn't require an offence to be made. Sir, the Chief Minister will not be able to accountable people. I want to know from the Honourable Home Minister, as he read Article 74(1), which says that the Council of Ministers headed by the Prime Minister to aid and advise the President who shall, in exercise of his function, act in accordance with such advice. Now, this bill clearly violates 74(1). Sir, this is the 1933 Gestapo when Gestapo was found in Germany. This government is hell-bent on creating a police state. This will be a death knell and leash on elected government, sir. Indian Constitution is being amended to turn this country into a police state. BNS 152, the Home Minister promised in this House that sedition would not be used. Section 316, Section 9 of BNS, PMLA Section 4, all these can be used to destabilize an elected government, sir. That is why I oppose the introduction of all these three bills. This is nothing but creating a Gestapo to ensure that our democracy does not survive. And may I tell the Honourable Home Minister, despite his promise on BNS 152, 152 has been used against a senior journalist, Siddharth Vardhan, Assam also. That is why I oppose this introduction of three bills, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's a very important moment. Indeed, we are here, Europeans, as friends and allies. We had a fantastic NATO summit. Together as the two largest and biggest economies in the world, we had the largest trade deal ever agreed. And now we are here to work together with you on a just and lasting peace for Ukraine. Stop the killing. This is really our common interest, stop the killing. And indeed, it's very good to hear that we're working on the security guarantees, Article 5 lies security guarantees, so important. But I want to thank you also that you mentioned the thousands of Ukrainian children that have been abducted. And as a mother and grandmother, every single child has to go back to its family. This should be one of our main priorities also in these negotiations, to make sure that the children.
The opposition parties have nominated Sri B. Sudarshan Reddy Garu as their joint candidate. हमने ये तय कर दिया है कि इस इलेक्शन में एक अच्छे उम्मीदवार को, एक अच्छे कानूनदा आदमी को और एक अच्छे स्वभाव के जो उम्मीदवार है उसको हम खड़ा करने जा रहे हैं। वो उसलिए मैं आपके सामने 4 लाइन पढ़ूंगा। इस व्यक्ति का भी व्यक्तित्व भी मालूम होगा और ये उनकी कार्य का आपको परिचय भी होगा। Sri B. Sudarshan Reddy Garu is one of the India's most distinguished and progressive jurists. He has had a long and eminent legal career, including as judge of the Andhra Pradesh High Court, Chief Justice of Guwahati High Court, and judge of the Supreme Court. He has been a consistent and courageous champion of social, economic, and political justice. He is a poor man, and many judgments, if you read, you will know that how he favored the poor people and also protected the Constitution and fundamental rights. This vice presidential contest is an ideological battle. It is not just a battle, it is an ideological battle, and all the opposition party agreed on this. That's why we are contesting unitedly. The opposition parties have nominated Sri B. Sudarshan Reddy Garu as their joint candidate, since he reflects fully and values that saved our country's freedom movement so profoundly, and the values on which our country's constitution and democracy have been ensured. All these values are under assault, and therefore our collective and determined resolve to fight this election. So this is the name, and we had meeting just now, and everybody consented and agreed this name. So we are fielding him as a Vice President candidate. Thank you very much.
The Chinese side attaches great importance to the Prime Minister's visit to China to attend the SCO summit at our invitation. We believe that the Indian side will also make your contribution to a successful summit in Tianjin. History and reality proves once again that a healthy and stable China-India relationship serves the fundamental and long-term interests of both of our countries. It is also what the developing countries all want to see. Our two sides should follow the strategic guidance of our leaders, increase mutual trust through strategic communication, expand common interest through exchanges and cooperation, and properly settle the specific issues in the borders so as to advance our relationship in a healthy and sound manner. Just now, we had in-depth and detailed communication in the small group meeting. At the large group meeting, I am ready to work with you to build more consensus and identify the direction, the specific goals of the next of the boundary consultations going forward, and create more conditions for the improvement and further growth of our bilateral relations.